Hot is presented by Betano. The game starts now. Here are your hosts, Brent, Wallace, Jason York, and Bobby Ryan.
Hey everybody, welcome inside the Coming in Hot World Headquarters. I'm Brent Wallace alongside Jason York, who's made it back from Phoenix, and Bobby Ryan, who loves to play golf any time of the year and gets to brag about it when he lives in Nashville. Boys, how are you?
I'm going straight to the course from here.
Anybody?
So
nice.
So let's keep it moving today.
Okay.
I'm still looking for a pair of toothpicks here, Wally, to keep my eyes open.
You'll be fine, Yorkie. We'll guide you through this one. Are you a golf equipment guy? Like, do you change all the time, or do you just stick with the same sticks?
The same. I don't. It's same as hockey. The equipment manager used to have to like take my skates physically out of my stall, put new ones in, and I'm the same way. I remember George Peros is like, for a guy that plays as much, you don't invest much money into this game, do you? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm not that good. I just like whacking it around.
So how often would you change gloves?
Those I go through like one. Oh man, at least one a week because I just rip them. I rip them to pieces, and then you got that big hole. Oh, you mean gloves on the ice?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, 2 pairs a year. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, is this a hockey podcast? I would maybe go through 3 pairs in a year, but that would be pushing it. Usually 2. Yeah, I just didn't like them. I was never a guy that dried them. I was like, I always wanted gloves to be wet and soggy. It made more sense to me. Felt better.
Yeah. Really? Okay.
Wow.
So what's the oldest bit of gear that both of you played with that you wouldn't change?
Oh man, I had a shell, like I wore a shell and pant and girdle, and I had a girdle that they didn't make anymore, and I had that from Anaheim all the way through Ottawa, and it was like you would hold it up and they would just droop all the way low because the fabric was so bad. So the guys had to piece that together with chainmail just to get me by. But finally, my last year, I got to Detroit, and they're like, "Dude, you got to make the switch." So I put on a pair of Warriors, and I absolutely hate them.
Shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Mine traveled with me from all the 5 teams I played with. I couldn't switch those. I just always found if you had the bad shoulder pads on, you felt too stiff. When I played junior, our coach made us wear these shoulder pads. They were called DanGIROUX'S. I don't know if you guys remember these at all, Wally. They had they had orange. They're like football shoulder pads, and they had this orange kind of foam inside them. And our junior coach wanted us to look really big, really mean. So you had to wear these things that you basically look like. You remember the Road Warriors from wrestling, Axe and Smash?
Yeah.
And you look, your shoulders looked like those guys are like this. So after I left junior, and I said, you know what, I'm going with the small ones from here on in. No more of these DanGIROUX'S.
Wow, love it.
Who is all right? Before we get on, who was the guy that always switched his stuff all the time?
Switched his stuff.
Who was the guy that always had the brand new gear every game?
Oh,
Teemu always had new skates. He was always going through skates and then he would take them into the shower, soak them, and in the shower, and then just put them on for the third period. Never worn before. You're like, how is this possible? And then a real big gear nerd would be Derek Brassard. He knows everybody's sticks and gloves and everything like that. So he was always experimenting with something new. I don't know if he still is.
Yeah. How about the guys, though? We used to call these guys the stick whores. When the equipment reps would come around, they'd always try and get a few sticks from the guy. And the guys, you look in the guy's stall, and he'd have like 8 different brands of sticks. Then he was always trying something new. And that was usually a guy that never scored. he'd always be looking
it's
to
so
change.
True.
It's the old
true.
stick whores.
Ridiculous. You walk into the stick room and like I never had more than 4 or 5 on there, and I always had them marked for what they were. If it had a P on it, I was like, it's a pure practice stick, and then I would always have 2 gamers ready to go. But then you walk in and you look over, like Chabby always had like 15, 20 different sticks on the go. You know, some that they would use once or twice, and they're like, it's no good, but it'll just sit in the pile. And I'm like, put it in the other corner where they donate them or where they do something with them. But guys would just have mountains of twigs, and you're like, what are you doing? How do you live? How do you function like that, not knowing which one to pick up every day?
I used to hang out.
I couldn't do it.
I used to hang out in the stick room all the time. You know, he was always screwing around with his stick. I think I might have talked about this before. Was Alfie. Back when we were still using wood sticks, he used to use this wooden Sherwood, and he'd be in there for like a half an hour, changing the lie, changing the curve. He was obsessed. But hey, it was working for him, right? He was producing. But I'd be in there for a half hour, changing my lie, changing my curve. And I think one day he finally just said to me, he goes, you know, it's not really going to make a difference. You're just the puck's not going to be on your stick is that long, so you're wasting your time in here.
That's so good.
I got one better. Alexei Yashin made me wait 4 hours one day while he worked on sticks.
Are you kidding
me? There seems to be a common thing
here,
Wally.
I think he tried to outweight me. As I'm doing a story on him being a finalist, I think, for the Hart Trophy. And he made me wait 4 hours until he came to do the interview. Just working on my sticks. I didn't know you were waiting.
4 hours. Like, what are you doing in there? I would walk in with a Sharpie, measure that thing right to my lips, put the Sharpie on there, cut it down, tape it up, and you're good to go. I had no time for all that kind of stuff.
So here's another thing with me. I could tell. I'd go out for warm up, and I could tell. I don't know if this was in my head. Any pair of skates I could wear, didn't matter. I could take somebody's skates, no problem whatsoever. But for some reason, as my career went on, I could tell if my stick was about a millimeter too long. I'd go out for warm up. That just feels a little too long. To run back in, take the knob off your stick, cut it down a millimeter. It turned into like a obsessive compulsive thing. And again, why am I doing this? It doesn't matter what kind of stick you have to cross-check a guy or to do a soft flipper or to just tape the tape off the glass. Like, it's not like I'm scoring 50 here.
My all-time favorite, Danny Heatley, changed sticks every period.
Did he?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I would, if I had a stick that was working, I would keep it for 4 or 5 games and then just pray that it didn't break. And then when it broke, you're like, oh no. And then you got to find a new stick that was like that perfect, like just whippy enough, just the blade, the kick point was just the same. It was, so if I had a stick that I was on a heater with, I was like, I'm keeping this until it goes. I would not practice with it. I wouldn't let anybody near it. I'm like, that stick is working. Just don't touch it. Make sure it gets in the pile, but that's it.
It seemed there were stick guys and there were skate guys. We chatted about coffee yesterday, and this brings back something because he was top of mind from yesterday. He used to rummage around in the stalls, underneath your stalls where everybody keeps their extra skates. He'd go looking in there, and he'd grab guys' skates, and he's like, these look pretty good. I'm going to try these today. And he would take other guys' skates and wear them, and then he wouldn't let the trainer sharpen his skates either. He sharpened his skates because they had to be exactly how he wanted. He didn't trust anybody else sharpening his skates. He was so obsessive compulsive about his skates, and he did wear them really small as well. I know there's that story about coffee always wanting to wear small skates. That one was true, but man, it's it seemed if it was guys, it was one thing or the other, right? It was either sticks or skates because guys have to be obsessive about something.
Yeah.
Well, and Alfie was obsessive about his skates only because he was trying to save his career, right, from his back pain, and ended up going through everybody's skates and settled on Chris Kelly's and just wore Chris Kelly's. He claims Chris Kelly saved his career. Yeah. All right, sorry. A little off topic. We're moving on to the Ottawa Senators from last night in the big game against Detroit. This show, as always, brought to you by Betano. Go to betano.ca, download the award-winning app. Betano brings a high-quality sportsbook to Ontario after receiving accolades for its product across Europe and South America. There is a lot to like about Betano platform, an abundance of markets, an intuitive app, and sterling reputation for safety and breadth of unique betting tools. Go to betano.ca, the 2022 EGR Operator of the Year. Boys, that's how it's done. Okay, you all got bragging rights yesterday about how good your reads were. We're going to see that later today.
So stiff, so robotic, so predictable.
Yeah.
You're like a mannequin.
We'll see. Well, they used to call us just reporters were known as hair and teeth. That was one of the things we used to do. Or a walking mic stand was another one. Yeah. All right, let's get to the game. A 6-2 win for Ottawa, which was, I don't know, you tell me, it felt like they were sending a message. Brady Tkachuk leading the charge. Claude Giroux, a 4-point game, his first in 3 years. Also, he's got 12 4-point games in his career. But what did you guys make of this game? And I know, Bobby, I saw your tweets throughout the game. You, again, like the fourth line.
I did. I thought they were good. I thought the whole team was good. The game really opened up in the latter half when Ottawa just kind of imposed their will. The physicality started with Brady and guys followed. But I especially like the fourth line. I thought they played hard. I thought they played simple. And really tilted the ice in the favor of the Sens a lot of that time. They just took over. They really took over in a lot of different areas of the game. So perfect home game. You know, you outshoot a team 2-1. Essentially, your power plays, you know, what is it, 33% give or take. So they dominated from the middle of the game on, and really took control. I thought it was an absolutely great home win. Now you look to see what kind of pushback Detroit has tonight, but I don't know if they have an answer for the Sens when they get downhill like they were getting downhill all night.
Yeah, I only watched the tail end of it because I was flying, and then caught up this morning. Had it taped, watched bits and pieces of the game, but again, that Ottawa power play, like they weren't great in the game, but those two first power play goals, right? The power play gets them back into the game and gets their feet under them, and that's been a common theme through this whole winning streak or heater they've been on as of late. It's the power play. I know it hasn't been statistically as great the last little while, but for the entire season, for a team that is just above 500, that power play is so good. And this is tough to explain, Bobby. Like, if you've been on a team where the power play has been this good, like I haven't in particular, but watching the Sens, that power play, they're so confident, they're so sure of themselves. It just seems when they're not feeling it, it can just pull them out of it and win them games.
Yeah, I think especially when they could have scored early. There was a pass through the seam from DeBrincat over to Stützle that the goalie made a good save on. So I thought they could have scored earlier in the game on it, but they have, they ad lib very well. But they also, when they get into structure, they have 3 or 4 really good set pieces that they can fall back on when hey, we're not, maybe we're fighting the puck a little bit and we're having trouble seeing things develop, and there's going to be nights like that where you just don't see things as clearly as you do on other nights as a 5-man unit. But they have those set pieces where you can go low and in to Brady, and he can jam, or he can pump that to the middle, or to the back door. Like those set pieces that every team has, but these guys are really able to fall back on them, and it gives them a different look. So you said it well, that on nights where the team's not rolling, they can pull themselves out of it. And if you roll 33%, you're doing something right.
Yeah, and Detroit seems like a great matchup for Ottawa. Like two similar teams, young, but one team has a great power play, and when one doesn't. And Wally, you brought this up yesterday. You asked us about Batherson, and he did it again. He scored another one of those goals. The same shot. He pulled it in. Shot. Yeah, so we're starting to see a theme with him, and that release, man, he's blowing it by goaltenders with that pull and drag.
Yeah, and it's nice when you can. I mean, the Sanderson, the power play goal. Broussard again won't get a lot of credit for it, but won an important draw, and got immediately downhill to the net to take away the eyes. The goaltender's eyes, created a lot of havoc in front. And Sanderson, obviously, the shot was phenomenal. He picked a spot and he hit that corner. But just wanted to emphasize, when your first power play's clicking, it's great. But when your second one, and the power killers that we've mentioned many times, can go out, and you have a Claude Giroux and a Jake Sanderson on that unit. And then you have a guy that Broussard, who's played a lot of half wall, a lot of different areas, buying in and getting to the net. it takes a little pressure off that first one. Sometimes they're going, oh man, thank goodness the other group can go out and provide us with a little bit of spark when maybe we're not feeling it the same way. So, you know, a lot of why they're rolling at 33% or whatever it is because of that first unit, but the second one's absolutely contributing as well.
Yeah, for sure.
The one question I want to ask, and it seemed to be a pivotal moment, and maybe you guys tell me because you've played the game. Brady Tkachuk at the end of the second, basically challenging the entire Detroit Red Wings bench to any kind of fight they're looking for. And by the way, it ends up killing a power play they had. I'm not sure anybody in Ottawa really cared. You guys tell me what that says about, I guess, the fight that Brady Tkachuk pulled everybody into last night.
So first off, it's called when somebody does something like that, you can tell when your team wants no part of it. Everyone's like looking down. I call it, they're looking for quarters. Hey, anybody's a quarter down there? Anybody a quarter down there? So the whole bench is down. Hey, yeah, whose quarter is this? Nobody wants any part. And would you?
No.
I was, Bobby, I never realized, because I think Brady's getting bigger. I was at, when I was at Chris Neal's retirement jersey, this guy he's like a centaur. He's just massive. Like he's a monster. He's so big.
Absolutely.
He's a monster. And I saw him with his skates on because when they did Nealer's night, they brought all the alumni onto the ice, and the Senators players were behind us on the bench. And when we got off and we walked down the alley, and here's Brady, the guy just gets it. Eh? He sat there and he basically said hi to every single alumni right before the game. How's it going? Blah, blah, blah. But I looked at the size of him. I'm like, holy shit. You don't realize how big this guy is, especially when he has his blades on. The guy's a monster. So he skates by Detroit's bench. And yeah, like I said, everyone's looking for quarters. And it's like you're the schoolyard bully and you know nobody's going to challenge you. Pretty good feeling, I think, if you're Brady right now.
I think the only guy that would possibly step up and be in that position would be Sherratt, and he kind of skated off. He was the only one that even paid it. Yeah. You got Jake Wallman sitting on the boards with his feet off the ice. Like, I'm not going out there, but they kept showing Wallman, and I'm like, buddy, pick a different guy because you're yapping, but you have no business being in this fight. And Brady's not going to fight you to begin with. It's number one, he's gonna beat the piss out of you. And number two, he can't go 5 minutes off the ice taking you off. It's got to be a big time player. So nobody, and even DJ is not mad about him blowing that power play by any means. Maybe, you know, they had the lead at that point, I believe, but at the same time, he was setting a tone, and he understands his captain, and he understands the fight that Brady has in him. So sometimes you just got to live with those decisions that Brady makes. But I absolutely loved it, and you could hear a pin drop on that bench. You absolutely, you know, you could have when they showed the bench, and I've never heard looking for quarters, but you had a lot of guys going. So I loved it. I loved it because you know that they're thinking about that today. They're thinking about that tonight, and a guy like Sherratt's probably going to talk to Brady about it, but. I loved it. I thought it was great, and I thought they came out in the third with a lot of piss and vinegar because of it.
Yeah, me too.
The one thing that made me laugh, though, Austin Watson is next to Brady, no question. But then there's Thomas Chabot, who's now trying to get into it, right? Because he probably feels like he's 10 feet tall because he's got these two guys next to him. Right? You don't expect to see Thomas Chabot thrown down anytime soon. So that one just made me chuckle a little.
I'd love to see him and David Perron swing them. Talk about a pillow fight. You fall first. No, you fall.
Have either of you been on a team, and probably more Yorkie because it was older school, where the bench has been challenged? And what's that like?
Well,
I can't.
Yeah.
I haven't. I mean, when I was in Anaheim, we had Peros and Brad May and, some big time guys. So nobody was challenging our bench. And then on top of that, you had a captain that was 6'5", 230 and Getzlaf. So nobody really went there. And nobody did it in Ottawa, thanks to Nealer. And, we had guys that weren't big guys, but you had guys like Smitty that would always step up if he needed to. So I've always been on teams that have had guys willing to go. I guess, in that sense. So no, I've never seen it before.
Yeah, I've been on too many teams with, like, back when I was playing with Korea, they had to have, you had like one of the toughest guys in the team. So we had Todd Ewan back then. He was an absolute monster. We brought in Ken Baumgartner one year. You'd remember him, Wally. Baumgartner, he was friggin' tough. And he had like a law degree too. Stu Grimson, another big monster. And I played with Bob Probert for a while, guys. What a scary individual he was. Man, it just, the front end of my career, it was, if you were on the ice and you ran into a tough guy, you got off the ice in a hurry. Like there were guys like Tony Twist roaming the NHL. Like Tony Twist was an if I was on the ice, I would see him, and you just try and avoid guys like that because they gotta hurt you.
Yep.
They weren't, the good thing about those guys, they weren't gonna fight you because it would actually look bad if one of those guys fought you. But no, I would say, has anybody challenged me? Even in the minors, when I was playing in the minors, there was bench clearing brawls, and it was just too many stories to think of, Wally. I can't think of one particular.
Well, I feel like,
don't forget
one in particular. I feel like Darcy Tucker or the Leafs at the time when they had Shane Corson in your Leafs Sens rivalry may have been.
Well,
was there a challenge?
Well, those
there?
guys, that Toronto team, they knew they could bully our team a bit because we didn't really have a lot of toughness when earlier days in Ottawa, and that's why a guy like Darcy Tucker could roam around. Not that Darcy wasn't tough and he didn't fight, because he was a tough guy too, but when Ty Domi's there, it makes life a lot easier because you got Ty in your back pocket. And but the worst one I can remember is we were playing Washington. I don't know if I told this story or not, but we got up by too many goals, Bobby, and we were getting nervous on the bench because it's 5-2, it's 6-2, and like, okay, guys, that's enough. We're going to win this game, because sure enough, minute left, they send out Dale Hunter, Chris Simon, Brendan Witt, Mark Tenorti, and I don't know, did I say Berube, Hunter? I don't know. It's all a mishmash. Minute to go, all five of their guys jumped all five of our guys and just started pounding on guys because we embarrassed them in their own rink, and it just turned into a brawl. I remember Reds got jumped by Hunter, and it was almost like a scene from Slapshot when the guys from the Charlestown Chiefs aren't fighting and they're just getting pounded into the ice. and Hunter was like that. Hunter was like that captain, Dr. Hook McCracken. He's just sitting there, just wailing away. And oh God, those weren't fun times when you're with Ottawa, because we just didn't have enough toughness.
Man,
too funny. All right. Hey, look. Time now for Jason York's Renfrew Pro Tape sponsor read. Brought to you as always by our good friends at Renfrew Pro Tape. Yorkie, hit it.
Once again, Renfrew Pro Tape. Our show is loosely held together by Renfrew Pro Tape. You always know it's Renfrew Tape because it's the one with the green core. And as a former player, you can also tell because Renfrew Tape is so much better than all the rest. I used to remember going into the other dressing rooms and you get the shitty tape, the stuff that doesn't stick to your tape. Well, that ain't Renfrew Tape, boys. Bobby knows what I'm talking about. Renfrew Tape. Yep. There's nothing like it.
You can also find them at all major retailers. Feel the game with Renfrew Pro on their Instagram account.
Come on. Everybody knows that, Wally. You got to tell a story with your read. Quit being a mannequin.
Follow them on Instagram, Renfrew Pro, okay? I'm just trying to help. I'll give you a 7 on that because you use bad language.
We're a podcast. We're supposed to use bad language.
It's a family-friendly show, Yorkie.
You know the kids.
Fuck me.
Totally. Hey, fellas, totally off topic, but I just had like a 10-hour delay at Pearson Airport last night. That golf documentary, Full Swing. Have you guys seen that yet? Holy shit, is that good?
Yeah, I went about 10 hours straight on that one day.
You did, yeah. I powered through it yesterday, but talk about the bad language, eh? The F-bombs on the tour are just flying.
Way more than I was going to picture. Yeah, not even close. Yeah.
I
always thought they were little nerdy
Bruce
guys.
Boudreaux?
Yeah.
This is not the documentary, Alex.
That's
Boudreaux in the NHL outdoor game. Remember his speeches in the locker room?
Oh yeah,
he was.
What a beauty!
Classic.
What a beauty! That was my brother's bad. That was my brother's bad swing, by the way. My younger brother.
Back to last night's game in the Ottawa Senators, and that's listen. We all said a month ago, there's no chance. There's no chance. Well, if you look at today's standings, there's a chance. Like, it's not like there's 10 games left in the season here. I understand that there's 20 games left or so and 23 for Ottawa, and that they've got to find a way, and there's 5 teams in front of them they've got to try and pass. But 5 points is 5 points. Am I like, just so we're clear, there was I think it was John Rodenberg who came out with a tweet and said, right around the middle of January, the Sens have to play 700 hockey here on out to try and have a chance to get to 95 points. Since January 25th, which is 13 games for the Ottawa Senators, they have the 3rd best winning percentage in the National Hockey League at 731. The next closest team in this group of teams that are trying to secure a wild card spot is the Islanders at 643. And by the way, like the Philly, and Washington are at the bottom at 333. The Sens are keeping it close. Can we not just say they're not out of it? How about that?
I said that yesterday. So let's just be clear here. Pittsburgh's getting in. Pittsburgh, to me, is going to be the team that gets in. If Ottawa wins this game today, for sure there's a chance. The team I've got my eyes on is the Buffalo Sabres. That's a team that needs to lose a bunch of games. They've got the game in hand. I believe they play Minnesota is their next game. But you're right, Wally. There's a ton of games left, and there's always a chance. I can just tell you from my experience, I was on a team in 1996-97, the first Ottawa Senators team to make the playoffs, and we did something very similar. We had a lot of teams to climb over as well. So, yeah, there's always a chance. But I think Pittsburgh's in for sure. I want to see what the Buffalo Sabres do. Is Detroit going to be there when it's all said and done? I don't think so. And I look at Florida too. That's a really good team. I want to see what they do. Washington's been really disappointing, but I'm looking at Florida, and I'm looking at Buffalo, and I'm looking at the New York Islanders, which are going to be problem teams for the Ottawa Senators to jump above.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you're right about Pittsburgh because, I mean, they got games to play with as well, and they'll find a way to get in. There's too much veteran presence there and too many guys that have been through it. So they'll be there when all is said and done. Buffalo surprises me, but I still think that they're a team that'll trail off a little bit. They like they have in the past. And then I'm not too worried. Like when I'm looking at this, I'm not real worried about Detroit or Florida at this or Washington. We just said it yesterday a little bit. They're gonna finish where Buffalo is right now. Unfortunately, that is my guess. But I'm pulling for them. I want to see them make the jump. I would love to see some of these players. Stützle, Brady, Shabby, some of these guys that have been around for a little bit, not Stützle in that regard, get into the playoffs and get some meaningful games in the playoffs and get that experience. But gosh, it's just such an uphill battle. So you got to win. You got to win these divisional games. You got to win these games above the teams ahead of you. And you can't have games like you did against Montreal where you got away with it because it was Montreal, but you can't have games like that when you want to be 70% the rest of the way.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the day when Brady Tkachuk is unleashed in a best-of-7 playoff series. Because you see little things like we just talked about him challenging the bench, and a couple games back when they were playing Boston on that 1-4 check, we showed that clip. I think, Bobby, you were away, but he just hunted down Hampus Lindholm and just hammered him through the boards. There's just so many things in his game that are going to transcend into being a menace on the ice in a best-of-7 series. So one thing, hey, these games are going to be meaningful, and the young guys are going to get a lot out of this, and it's going to make these players a lot better for what they're going to go through here in the next little while, because the pressure is going to be different now, and this is going to be very beneficial to the future of the Ottawa Senators.
Yes, I agree. With 22 games left, you're looking. Go ahead.
We just got a live shot of Brady Tkachuk arriving at practice this morning as they get set to take to the, there it is.
Center.
That's good. That's good. We got to get that. We got to get that put in his stall. Somebody send that to him, please.
Oh, God. I think
pretty good.
I think, Wally, I think his dad, Big Walt Brady, or Keith Tkachuk, might have the record for biggest ass in the league. Like, that guy's legs and butt were so big. Like, just, I remember the one lockout, because Big Walt, as his nickname was, had such a big frame. The one lockout, he came back. He might have been pushing close to 280. Like, he was a big man. So Brady comes by it naturally. They're thick people.
I absolutely clobbered Big Walt when I played against him one time. It was one of his last couple of years, and he had his head down, and somebody gave him a shitty pass. And I caught him, and I hit him, and he went down hard. And it was in St. Louis. I'll never forget it. It was in St. Louis, and the whole place was like, whoa, that doesn't really happen. And I finished the game, and I remember we flew somewhere after the game, and I woke up the next morning, and I felt like I hit a truck. I was like because I leaned in with this one, and I remember my whole left side, I couldn't get my arm to go above here. Yeah. I was like, what could this have possibly been? And then I thought, well, I hit a 250-pound absolute unit at a pretty good clip. I was moving pretty good when I hit him, so I was like, never again. Yeah. So I laid off him for the rest of the time. I was like, I'm not running into that guy again. Get him away from me.
When I was in Nashville, we were playing St. Louis. This was back when the schedule was a little bit different. I think we had him about 8 times a year, and I was playing in a shutdown role. So I had Tkachuk almost every single shift. Yeah, and this is probably 1 out of 10 times where I actually beat the guy to a puck. He might be the best player I played against inside that 10-foot radius in front of the net. And
yeah,
Brady comes by it naturally, where they're in front of the net and they get body position on the other team's defenseman, and they just get to so many pucks and they tip so many pucks. Big Walt was unbelievable at that. Just such a hard guy to move in front of the net. Big, strong, great hands. And hey, he had a couple seasons. I don't have his stats in front of me. He had a couple seasons where I think he was over 200 minutes, and I think it was 40 goals. He might even had 50. Yeah, I think he had 50 and over 200 penalty minutes. I'm just going off the top of my head here, freelancing, but that's pretty tough to do. That many PIMs and that many goals. Like, I laugh now when people talk about, oh, is this guy a power forward? Is he? No. Like a real power forward is friggin' Rick Tocchet, Big Walt, guys that actually fought a lot and got over 200 minutes. That used to be the definition of a power forward. He was a beast to play against, man.
And that is the story about how Bobby Ryan threw his last check in the National Hockey League.
Bobby, I love it.
I came back out of my shell for the playoff run. I threw a couple there just for good nature.
Did you?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Just quickly, Walt, Keith Tkachuk in Phoenix had 52 goals, 228 PIMs. He had in Winnipeg 41 goals, 255 PIMs. Those are those 2 years at over 200 minutes, and but he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20 goal seasons.
Wow.
Like, I think that guy should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
That is so tough
I think
to do.
if you score 1,000 points in the National Hockey League, it's fairly rare. Like, I still think you should get in. 1,000 points.
What's his goal total again, points. Wally? What's his career goal total?
538. 538.
Yeah, it's the combination of playing a tough game, playing a reckless game, racking up all those penalty minutes, and scoring all those goals. People have no idea how tough that is to do. Like, every single night you're scoring, and you're also a friggin' hard guy to play against that hits and fights and gets their nose dirty and plays hurt. That is extremely tough to do over a long career and be offensively productive throughout your entire career. So I agree. For me, he's a no-brainer for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree.
Like 2,200 PIMs. So he played 1,200 games, 2,200 PIMs, 538 goals. Like, and I'm going to use Chris Neal as an example. And I don't want people to get annoyed with me, but 1,000 games, 2,500 PIMs. Just that's the kind of perspective. I just think that his offensive numbers with the way he played that reckless game just deserve to be in the Hall. But anyway, that's not for me to decide. Bobby, I don't know if I know you're a big Bonisher excavating kind of guy that hops in a loader any chance you can and looks to excavate the backyard. What are your thoughts on BEI?
Bonisher Excavating. I need a graphic here, gentlemen. As always, the show is brought to you by BEI, Bonisher Excavating, heavy civil general contractor, helping to shape the Ottawa Valley, always hiring for laborers, mechanics, concrete structure team, quality control technicians. When planning your next project, consider BEI for your aggregate supply needs. www.bonisherexcavating.com, 613-432-1120. Nailed it.
So good.
All right, Bobby, you're getting it.
A little fast.
He's getting the Nashville.
Although I will,
he's getting the Nashville accent. You're starting to say W. You said W.
Am I? Oh man! All right,
you're getting the
all right. Oh, I can't do it. I need a trip to Ottawa.
That was really good. That's probably an 8. But nobody says WWW since about 2007.
W.
So I get knocked off. I get knocked off too for saying that, but he drops the F-bomb where he drops a curse word and he gets a 7.
Yeah, he had more enthusiasm. You just read from the top down.
Isn't that what an ad is? They wouldn't put it up there if it wasn't supposed to be read. All right.
It's like American Idol. You're supposed to take it and make it your own.
Exactly.
Oh, I did not do that. All right, fair enough. Well, I still won the battle, 8 over a 7. And hey, the degree of difficulty between Renfrew Pro and BEI is a much bigger.
There's you had a tough word in there too. You had a tough word in there. You almost butchered too. There was one word in there that
aggregate.
Had a little bit. Aggregate.
Yeah.
You did. Yeah. Well done.
I can't spell intensity. I'm definitely not going to spell aggregate. Brian Burke, you squid.
By the way, we are available if you need us to do any sponsor ad reads for your show. Just give us a call. We'll help you out. Okay, finally, Sens tonight, which probably means Mad Sogard is in goal, who's 3-0-1. What is, if you are the Detroit Red Wings, which both of you played on, going to be, I guess, your mindset as you take to this game, which is clearly a pretty pivotal game? Ottawa wins tonight. They are tied for points.
Yeah, it's a big one. I'm sure Lalonde's whacking a few guys this morning in video and showing some things because he couldn't have been happy with the effort through the second half of that game by any means. So you're just, you can't really say much. You got to flush that game as much as you can. You go over some things and then you say, boys, this is, if we're going to climb, if we're going to be in this hunt for the rest of the way, this is a must-have game. We cannot drop 4 points to a team that is directly behind us. We'll be tied. So there'll be a pushback for sure. And they got a really good room over there. Obviously I've been part of it with a lot of those guys. They got a really good room. They'll be ready to go tonight. And they're going to come out jumping early on.
Who's the leader in there, Bobby? Who's the guy in that room? That's the
Larks. Yeah.
He's the guy.
And yeah, Larks is a great motivator, but also really he doesn't say anything that he's not going to do, which I always liked in captains, right? It's easy to blow smoke. I've played with a few of those guys, but at the same time, when a leader like Larks says it, and then is willing to go do exactly what he's preaching and saying, then guys will follow him, and he's the leader in that room for sure. And I can't really speak to the other guys because there's a lot of older guys that came in and probably took some of that burden off of them. But that team goes as Larks and Bert go. Those would be the two guys that I'm always looking to hear from in the room.
It's funny you said something there, Bobby, that I caught on to about guys that say stuff, and they're saying stuff for their own benefit. I can remember when I was in Anaheim, I played with a guy that knew exactly when the coach was going to come into the room to say his speech, and he would do the phony, "Come on, boys, let's go, boys, big game tonight, boys, let's be ready." And he'd go start banging his stick on the ping pong table, and then it was actually Brian Murray, the late Brian Murray, would come in and says, "Attaboy, Dan, way to get the guys ready." Sure enough, this guy turned into a coach. It was Dan Bylsma. Oh my God, really good guy. And I don't blame him.
I played for him. I played for him.
Yeah, I know. Hey, listen, you're trying to extend your career. You're trying to, and he was a good team guy. He played hard. He really hard, block shots. But we used to be sitting in the dressing room, Mike LeClaire, Steve Rucci, and we'd all roll our eyes. Oh, here he goes again. He knows that Brian's coming in a couple minutes here, and it was like
he's clock watching.
You can just tell, right? But so, anyways, short story there for you, Wally.
Every team's got him. Every team's got him.
So Yorkie was so proud of his story that he froze. So we'll wait for him to come back. They're going to probably
having a nap.
They're probably going to start Ville Husso in net, which is obviously, I mean, he's their number one guy and has played, I think, 39 games this year. So I think that'll play a big factor. But I think Ottawa comes in with they've got to have that momentum from last night, right? Plus, they've got the home ice advantage. The crowd is into it. I don't want to call it a playoff atmosphere because I don't think you can really replicate that in a regulation or regular season game. But there is a big feeling of momentum in that building.
Yeah, I would agree with. I mean, I can't speak to the building. I could understand the crowd. I could feel the crowd a little bit last night when you were watching. They were into it, but yeah, I mean, I know we're not doing the lock of the day, but they absolutely have the momentum. When they imposed their will in the third period and tilted that ice that heavily, there was just no response. I don't think that'll be the case tonight. I think Detroit will have a really good pushback, but yeah, clearly Ottawa's coming into this game feeling really good about what they did last night.
Yeah. Well, I know Yorkie wants to get to lock of the day.
Oh yeah, I forgot to. You know what? Yesterday was such a long day. I got stuck in Pearson for 6 hours. Got my bags lost. It was a friggin' avoid Toronto Pearson at all costs, fellas. If you're doing any traveling, my God, what a gong show. Yeah, hey, I won lock of the day. Almost forgot. I was the only one to take the.
Yeah, I know you didn't. There's no chance you forgot.
You just reminded me.
Let's do.
Hold on a sec. I gotta put my helmet on here. I got a bad.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Plane air. There we go. Oh, baby.
Perfect. Time now for the lock of the day, brought to you by Betano. Go to betano.ca. Online betting and the live casino. All your favorite casino games, by the way. The game starts now with Betano. Download the all-new app. All right. It's pretty simple. Same teams as yesterday. Yorkie, you get to go first because you won.
Is that a misprint there? That can't be true. Let's say 18-7. There's no way that's true. Wally, is that true? Is that true? Come on.
You had a little streak where you were off. Yep.
Nobody's that smart. Nobody's that smart. So we're picking this again? Holy shit. A lot of pressure here. A lot of pressure. You know what? I'm picking up what Bobby laid down there. I think Ottawa's going to win again. I think there is going to be a response from Detroit, but I love that power play. Sogaard's probably going in today. He's played well. So I'm going to go Ottawa. I'm going back-to-back Sens here to get that much closer into the thick of the playoff race. Ottawa.
I like that. You know what, Wally? We're going to switch it up because I want to go third here, and I took a double bogey on the last hole. I'll let you. I picked terribly, so Let's see what you do. That's going to make my pick. Yeah. He gets the benefit of going third all the time. So
I went first the other day too. I went first with Ottawa.
You're just competing against yourselves. It's okay. Detroit's lost 2 in a row, which concerns me that they've got to find a way to get out of it. And they're a little bit veteran group. They'll have Ville Husso in goal. But the momentum that these Senators carry, is it enough to outweigh this? I'm going Detroit. I'm going to go back-to-back Detroit.
Oh, you really hate the Sens, don't you? You want them to lose every game.
I will now be.
You're a bastard.
I'm now having my address removed from any kind of mailing that you could find me with. Yes, people egg my house.
All right, you guys, man. Now I don't want to go third because I don't know what to do. I like the Sens, but I do. Yeah, I like what Wally said too, and I like. Game, but but Husso has been pretty good.
Yeah. He has been. Take the
and you wonder if the Sens are going to have a letdown after hanging 6 last night.
Yes.
But I'm going to go with.
Think with your head, Bobby.
I'm going with the Sens. I told you I was good. Yeah, I said it yesterday that I would probably be flipping on part 2, and I'm going to flip on part 2. I think the Sens find a way to get it done at home, and they put themselves right in the conversation.
Okay. Lastly, I'm going to try and fit this one in. The Toronto Maple Leafs have signaled that they're all in, right? They go and get Ryan O'Reilly and Lafferty, and they've made 5 moves, I think it is. And I don't want to get this into a Leaf kind of discussion, but when you look at their draft picks, they've given up nearly everything for the next 3 years in the top 4 rounds. I think they have 1 pick left over or something. People are either saying, listen, you've now wiped the cupboards. There's no chance for a rebuild. If you don't win, you're wasting your time. And I remember John Muckler would do this too, that he would give everything he could to make the team win now. Are you guys okay with the way Toronto or any team is kind of going all in, sacrificing the future to try and win that cup now?
I am. It's no different to what Tampa Bay is doing. You got your core at their height and at the peak, right? And Tampa Bay's already proven they've done it. So they're trying to maximize their window. I guess it's a different story. If we're veering back towards the Leafs, you're saying, okay, we got Officer Matthews for another year or 2, whatever it is. The same with the rest of their core. So they're surrounding the core with what they think. I don't have a problem with it because it's going to be a long and slow process when they come out of this, if they lose some of these guys to free agency when they get paid or whatever it might be. But if I'm part of that team as a player and I'm getting that signal, that means the GM has a lot of belief in us. Yeah, I have no issue with it. No issue with it at all. Make the best team possible for right now because you have Austin Matthews and Nylander and Tavares and all these guys. You don't quite have a goalie, but at the same time, you can sacrifice the future for a win now. I have no issue with that.
I'll steal a little bit of what Steve Yzerman said the other day. I was listening to Steve Yzerman because he's one of the architects of that Tampa team. He said something that I really picked up on. All those draft picks, what are they really worth? They're draft picks.
Yeah, that's
trading a draft pick.
Julian Breezeball.
That was Breezeball.
Yeah, Yzerman said the same thing the other day. He repeated it. They are picks, and I agree with that. You don't know if these picks are going to be good. You never know when you're going to be good again. You never know when you're going to be in this position. So I like what both teams do. I will say this, and I know Ottawa fans won't like it, but hey, we tell the truth on this podcast. That's what we do here, fellas. We're realists. Those were really good moves that Toronto made. Those were really good moves. Jake McCabe is exactly what they needed for their blue line. And Ryan O'Reilly, could you get a better older guy to come in and help you for the playoffs? For guys like Matthews and Marner to watch and see how this guy conducts himself. Like, the guy's a winner. He's a Conn Smythe winner that won a Stanley Cup that can still get it done. So, and hey, if Toronto does, if Dubas doesn't make those moves and they lose, he's fired. He's fired. If they lose in the first round, he's fired. If they lose in the first round after he makes these moves, well, guess what? He's probably fired again too. So if they don't go on a long run, I would have to say that he's going to get fired because they're going to have to change things. So if you're going to do it, you might as well go in swinging and give it your best one and your best shot. And I like what he did. So I'm making those moves because, like Bobby says, sends the signal, and you only have so many windows.
Agreed. So here's their picks. They have 1 first round, 2/3, and 1/4 over the next 3 years. They've basically who right. They've wiped it all up. And but here's my point was, when John Muckler did that, everybody was all over him. And Brian Murray was the one to say, hey, look, they left the cupboards bare. We got nothing in the minors. And my argument always was, well, don't you want to win a Stanley Cup as opposed to a Calder Cup? You want to win a National Hockey League title. So,
But don't.
I think Mux was always trying to do that back then, and he got vilified for it. And now we're seeing teams finally agree that yes, it's time to, you can rebuild these teams. It's time to sacrifice to try and win what is the hardest, arguably hardest trophy in sports to win, at least in professional sports.
And don't forget, Wally. Don't forget. I love Brian Murray. I played for him. Great person, great man, but a master manipulator of the media. And one thing really good GMs do that survive a long time in the NHL, they make sure they do a number on the guy that was in there before him, because then anything they do after looks that much better. And they all do it. It's how you survive in the NHL for a long time. And hey, that's just good business if you want to last in the league a long time.
I agree.
Yep. And the argument is, you don't know if any of those picks are going to pan out, but you do know what Ryan O'Reilly brings, or Jake McCabe, or Sam Lafferty. You know what these guys can do and what they can do now. And so same with Julian Brisebois. I'm okay. Like the Tanner Jeannot one is odd to me just because it's so many picks. But again, there's not much chance that all those picks are going to play in the National Hockey League. So what are you really giving up? Are you giving up one player for Tanner Jeannot in a first-round pick? Maybe.
Pretty much. I think you pretty much are. I mean, no offense to guys that are picked in this place, but third, fourth, and fifth. Third has a chance. Fourth and fifth are generally not going to play. They're going to go play in the AHL. They're going to get some spot duty. They're going to come up and yes, they're absolute gems to be had in those rounds.
Drake Batherson,
but at the but at the same time, the odds are that those guys are not going to be NHL players. I don't know. I would like to know the statistic of how many first-round players play more than 150 games over their career. It's not many, I don't think. So if I'm a GM, I'm throwing fourth, fifth, and sixth rounders out like candy. Here you go. Take 3 of them. Go ahead. I'll give you 3-6. That's actually a first.
Bobby gives out 3 chocolate bars at Halloween to kids instead of 1. There you go.
I'm a full-size chocolate bar kind of guy. Yeah, go for it.
Well,
there's one good one and there's 2 almond joys.
Almond joy, that's nasty. But here's the thing too: if Tampa doesn't win this year and they it doesn't go their way, they have a lot of guys next year that you can trade and recoup some of those draft picks for, and that's what teams are doing now. Take your run. Let's say next year you're on the downturn, and come trade deadline, you turn whoever you want to trade, whoever it is. They've got a ton of star players that a lot of teams will want, and they do exactly what these teams are doing. You trade one of your big boys for a bunch of draft picks, and voila, my draft picks are back.
Absolutely. Yep, for sure.
I just picked a team or a draft year that was a while ago that players have had time to play games. So in 2010, according to HockeyDB, total players drafted 107. Players to play in the National Hockey League, 51. The average number of games, 299.
Yeah. Okay.
So, right? So half the players are playing in the National Hockey League.
But they might have gotten one game.
Yeah.
Right?
How many?
Yeah, no question.
How many are?
Yep.
Yeah. So how many are having impactful careers where they're impacting the organization? And not many, because that's just the way it goes.
Who were the first 5 picks that
year? That's the Tyler Hall year, I believe. One sec. I was just doing something else. How did I mess this up? Oh, for the low. That's Taylor Hall's year, but now I've got to redo this. Sorry.
Because you think, you
can't find good help
right out of the gate. Yeah, the amount of games that just Taylor Hall played, that's going to bring the average way up, right?
Yep. Same with okay. So Taylor Hall, Tyler Seguin, Eric Goodbranson, Ryan Johansson, Nino Niederreiter with top 5.
Okay, so
all played over 700 games.
Yeah, that's bringing your average way up. There's a lot of, there's got to be a lot of games between 5 to 10 games. So, in the grand scheme of things, I have no problem. If I'm a GM, I'm throwing away 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and I'm holding on the 1s and 2s as much as I can. but you have to give those up to make your team immediately good. So I have no issue with Dubas or Brisebois doing what they did. If I'm a player in that room, I'm ecstatic because our window is now.
And it's you know what's funny too? Everybody's all over Tampa saying, you know, this guy, that guy. I'll guarantee you half the people that are saying this have watched him play a grand total of 5 shifts this year, because nobody's watching the Nashville games. They're all looking at the analytics and this, like trying to have an opinion. You know, so let's see how it plays out. On paper, it looks like it's a lot of draft picks, but let's see this.
You know, he's got 4 or 5 goals, but it doesn't change the fact that he was a 20 goal scorer last year. So you put him in the right position down there, and he's not going to be on your top 2 lines. But I saw the bottom 2 lines that they have there now. That is going to be an absolute bitch to play against. That bottom 6 with Nick Paul, I think Hagel was in there, Perry, Maroon, Belmare, and now you throw Jeannot into the mix. Like that's a heavy, big bottom 6. So. Tampa's going to be able to roll forward. That's going to be a great. That's going to be one of the best series of playoffs when Tampa and Toronto line up on that first night.
Oh yeah, someone's going down. Unfortunately, wow.
It's a shame though, isn't it? That's a shame because I don't want to see that early.
But okay, would you change the playoff format?
Should we go back? I would just go 1 through. I'm just a traditionalist, so I think you should, but. I also don't like that you have to get out of your division. Like I would like to see some crossover early on with teams with less familiarity each other, play each other early on. Like it, you know, that's just me though.
I'd like one. People call me crazy. I'd love to see 1 play 16. Let's really make winning overall worthwhile. You get to play, if you're first overall, you get to play the worst team in the NHL. I know, but then hey, home ice becomes an advantage because. Let's say it's a long travel. That team's got to come a long way to play us. So I'd love to see and maybe make it a shorter series. Maybe make it a shorter series, but that's never going to happen. Yeah, back in the old days. What was the old days? The first series back when you had was it a best of 3 or a best of 5? Like I'm going back to the 80s, Wally.
I'm trying to remember if it was best of 5. I think it's best of 5.
It was. The first series was always shorter. Then you went to best of 7. But I do love
tearing everybody apart.
Yeah, the old Smythe back then.
All right, we got one more show left before trade deadline. We will talk some more. We'll also try and tell some trade deadline stories that you guys may have had over the years. We will be back Thursday. We'll see you then. Great show today, boys. Talk to you again. Take care. Enjoy the golf today, Bobby.
Yeah, thank you guys. Bobby. See you later. 71 and sunny.
You bastard.
Coming in Hot is brought to you by Betano.ca. Please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to never miss an episode.